527, runway 8 kilo, you're cleared for takeoff.
This is your captain speaking. If you love travel, and we know you do, buckle your seatbelts and keep your tray tables in the upright position. You should be seeing the illuminated fun signs throughout the aircraft, because we're about to take off on a chat of epic proportions. Welcome to Tray Tables and Time Zones, the podcast where travel isn't just about taking vacations. It's about enriching your life. We'll dive into the highs, the lows, and the downright absurd moments that come with exploring the world. Whether it's food poisoning on a long-haul flight, trekking to Mount Everest Base Camp, or traveling to Disney parks worldwide, we cover it all. Serious at moments, but mostly we're here to laugh and share some brutally honest travel stories. So let's do it, one time zone at a time. This is Tray Tables and Time Zones, and this is your host, Josh Bogle.
Hey everyone, welcome to 2025 and welcome back to Tray Tables and Time Zones. I'm your host, Josh Bogle, and I am coming to you today from my hotel room in Helsinki, Finland. It is Sunday, January 12th. And as many of you will know, if you follow me on Instagram, I decided to go on this trip fairly recently. And the trip was involved in coming to Helsinki and to Rovaniemi in Finland, and then taking a ferry to Stockholm, Sweden, and then eventually ending up and spending a full day in London because it's London and I love it, and I wanted to grab it while I was already in Europe. Never been to Finland or Sweden. Have been to Norway and Denmark, but never to Finland and Sweden, so I really wanted to come. I've heard lots of good things. And so I wanted to kind of try to do a semi-live or near-live accounting of the trip via the podcast. As kind of a little podcast series here to start off the year where I give my thoughts about, the trip as it's kind of happening. And then once I had enough to put out a podcast, I would go ahead and do that and put a podcast out while I was on the road. And that's still the plan. But I will say the first couple recordings I did along the way, I was using a lavalier mic and a personal recorder, and there's so much background noise. It was just terrible. You could barely hear me talking, and I really didn't like the audio. It was terrible. So anyway, I've decided to kind of give a recap up to this point here in the room so it's somewhat better audio and you can actually hear what the heck I'm saying. So headed out on Wednesday, January, whenever that was, 8th, and flew from Houston to Minneapolis. And you might be wondering, you're going in the wrong direction there, jackass. You're right. But I was using points for this flight, so I was getting to fly business class. And I am a pretty strong disliker, if that's a word, of the A330 and the A340 aircraft. I was going to be flying likely Lufthansa. And on those planes with Lufthansa, even in their business class, it's a 222 setup, right? So it's 2 seats, 2 seats, 2 seats. And I mean, I've flown on seats similar to that before, and it's fine. I mean, the flight was only 8.5 hours or so, but I really dislike those airplanes. And so turns out Lufthansa recently put out this new business class product called the Allegris. Unfortunately, the plane I flew on did not have it. I was hoping it would, but it turned out it was not. They have started a 787 program at Lufthansa, and several of the first ones they purchased were planes that were basically already built, right, for another carrier. And so it would have been a massive cost for Lufthansa to go in and really rip out everything and put their new stuff into these planes. So they took them kind of as is, right? Obviously, it's got Lufthansa branding and everything in it, but the seats themselves, the hard product, was installed, and they used that. So it was a 7879 from Minneapolis to Frankfurt. And all in all, pretty good flight. I will say the seats, they were a lot. I didn't see what brand the seats or the manufacturer that made the seats, but they reminded me a lot of like the seats on EVA Airways on their business class. They're 121. I was in 5A. Comfortable seat, nice amenities. The food was decent, good service. The flight attendants were fantastic, very, very helpful, very, very cheery, but professional, efficient, as you would expect. So very good. I did enjoy the experience. I mean, it's hard to bitch about business class, period. But I mean, I've been in some business classes that are pretty shitty for what you get. So, it's always nice to have a good business class experience. And this certainly was. So, like I said, flew from Houston to Minneapolis and then had like a 2-hour layover in Minneapolis and then hopped on the flight to Frankfurt. So kind of a new thing for me. I've never flown Lufthansa before. This was the first time. And I've also never been to Frankfurt. I've flown out of Munich and I've flown to Berlin, but I've never flown into Frankfurt. So this was a new one for me. And then frankly, a lot of the things I'd heard previously about Frankfurt was not great. So we fly over, arrive in Frankfurt. Like I said, it was about an 8.5-hour flight. Nothing bad, pretty easy to do. And got to Frankfurt. And when I was flying over, was looking at, okay, how do I transfer here? Because you get to Europe, it's Schengen, non-Schengen, everything's separated out, whether you're coming from outside the Schengen zone into the Schengen zone, or if you're coming from outside the Schengen zone and transferring to another country, to fly to another country that's outside the Schengen zone. It's a whole thing, right? So, of course, I was coming from a non-Schengen country. And then I was going to be flying from Frankfurt to Helsinki, and obviously that would be Schengen. So anyway, I came in on terminal, I may be screwing this up. I came in on the Z gates, I believe, and then had to transfer to the A gates. Anyway, it worked out really easily because they're basically stacked on top of each other, right? Z is above A, if I remember correctly. So anyway, pretty easy to do. Actually, the transfer was very easy, no big deal at all, and ended up in going to the lounge, one of the business class lounges, which was really nice. I actually really enjoyed it. The food was okay. I mean, not a huge selection, but they had Franziskaner, which is a German wheat beer that I adore. They had it on tap, and they had lovely, lovely soft pretzels, soft German pretzels. Fantastic, right? And then proper German mustard. So I was pretty happy. I mean, they could have provided basically nothing else, but if I had those three things, I would have been pretty damn happy. So I had a 6-hour layover in Frankfurt. So ate some, hung out in the lounge, just relaxed, charged everything up good, and then took advantage of the shower rooms and actually had a shower and changed clothes and everything. So that was nice. It kind of refreshed me as I got in, because my schedule from that point on, from leaving Frankfurt to going into Helsinki, was going to be very quick and chaotic. And let me explain why. I wanted to get the trip up to Rovaniemi out of the way early when I got here into Helsinki, because I wanted to be able to go up there, see that, and then come back and have several days in Helsinki before I transferred over to Stockholm. I didn't want to try to be taking the train north and then back south at the end of the trip in case something happened, you never know, and miss out on getting on the ferry. So left Frankfurt. By the way, my impression of Frankfurt Airport, which granted, I didn't do a lot of strolling around, is it's fine. It's okay. It's nothing spectacular. It's nothing horrible. It's okay. I mean, that's my impression of it. It's kind of okay. I mean, it's fine. It's workable. It's a little bit confusing, and it's pretty big and kind of a pain in the ass to get around in. But, it's not bad. The one thing I will say is we were flying on an A321 on Lufthansa from Frankfurt to Helsinki, and my God, it's like they parked this plane in the furthest reaches of the airport. I mean, I don't even know that we were at the airport. We passed by all the gates and maintenance and cargo and God knows what else till we finally got to this plane that was parked way the hell out in the sticks. I mean, it was crazy how far out this was. The bus ride took forever to get out there to it. And then once we get there, of course, it's raining. So once they finally opened the doors on the plane and everybody could get off the bus, which we were stuck on for a while, to get onto the plane, it was just pouring rain. And of course, the first couple of jackasses that go through the door and turn down the aisle decide, oh, screw everybody else behind me. I'm going to stand here and take my sweet time putting all my luggage up right now. So everybody got stopped on the damn stairs going up because the first couple of people were just being complete assholes and not thinking about anybody else behind them. And instead of just setting your luggage there in the seat and waiting for it to kind of thin out a little bit and then put your stuff up, they're like, no, screw this. I'm going to put this shit up right here. So everybody else behind me is stuck on this freaking unprotected stairway up to the plane, getting just soaked. So anyway, I was pretty red-assed by the time I got into the plane, and I was looking around at the other people in business class and frankly was thinking pretty shitty things about them. And I was trying to figure out which one of the assholes was the one that caused me to get soaked, but that's neither here nor there. I guess it's just the way it is. I should have expected it. But anyway, so now that I'm off my soapbox, the reason everything was going to be chaotic is that I was flying into Helsinki. Once I landed in Helsinki, I was going to have about 3.5, 4 hours of time where I needed to get from the airport to the central train station, where I needed to go down the street and drop off my suitcase to store it because I was only taking my backpack up on the train. Because frankly, I didn't want to drag around the suitcase in Rovaniemi in freaking 2-degree weather and snow. And there was, minimal storage from what I understood at the airport. Or, at the train station in Rovaniemi as far as like luggage lockers. So I was like, no, I'm not going to fight that. I'll just store my luggage in Helsinki before I go. And I found a company that basically arranges for the storage of luggage. And crazy enough, I actually stored my luggage at a friggin' Nepali restaurant right near the central train station. A little bit hard to find, but pretty convenient location. They were very friendly. They took my luggage and stored it in the back room. And then when I came back and got it a couple days later, it was there, no problem. I mean, it worked out pretty good, and it was a hell of a lot cheaper than storing it somewhere else in the city. So that worked out pretty good. So if you ever need storage in Helsinki, there's a couple of apps that you can use, and they work out pretty good. So anyway, stored my luggage, walked back to the train station, and kind of checked it out. It's really kind of cool, monolithic looking, I don't know how to explain it. Pretty cool old school train station. The big chandeliers, and I think it's made out of a lot of Finnish granite. It was really pretty. Very stoic, but very pretty, right? It was kind of nice to walk outside when we first got there because it was snowing and the lights are on still. Some of the Christmas lights and stuff are still up. So it's very pretty. Coming from Texas where we never see snow, it never really gets cold. And me being a lover of the cold, I was pretty happy. It was pretty awesome. Got back to the train station, grabbed some supplies, got some drinks and stuff to put in my bag. They have a restaurant car on the train, which I planned on eating from that night, but I wanted to have some extra drinks and everything that I could pick up before I got onto the train. So I did that. And then the train arrived, and it was time to get ready to board. And this was a pretty cool experience. So I booked a solo cabin, or a cabin. Technically, it's a cabin for two, right? But you can get the whole cabin even if you're one person. And on the way up, I was on the upstairs in this cabin, which means I had a bathroom inside the cabin, a private bathroom. And then on the way back, they only had the bottom floor cabins, which were basically the exact same thing, except they don't have a bathroom. A private bathroom, right? You have to use the bathrooms, the public bathrooms in the train car. Fine, whatever. Let me tell you what. I've done some traveling on some trains before. I've traveled on the ICE trains in Germany, and I've traveled on the Shinkansen in Japan. But those trips were usually, 3 hours, 4 hours at most, right? This thing, not nearly as fast, right? But it's an overnight train. A night train, basically. And it's the Santa Claus Express. So right there, I could give a shit how fast it goes. And as long as it was comfortable, I was going to be happy because it was just unique as shit. And I love that. And this was a 12-hour, basically, ride from Helsinki to Rovaniemi. And you might say, well, why the hell are you going to Rovaniemi? Well, if you don't know, Rovaniemi is the official, quote, home of Santa Claus. And there's a Santa Claus Village there that a lot of people like to go to. And there's a lot of other things that people do up there. It's in Finnish Lapland. So, sled dogs and reindeer sled rides and northern light chasing and snowmobiling and things like that are very popular up there, right? So I wanted to go up and check it out, but I didn't want to stay up there too much because I wanted to come back and see Helsinki and see more. But it was a cool opportunity not only to see the home of Santa Claus, but also to cross the Arctic Circle, because just so happens, in the middle of where they built Santa Claus Village, the Arctic Circle actually runs right through it. So I had to check this place out, right? I will say that once I got on this train, after I'd been on the plane for, 24 hours traveling, my time was fucked all the way up. Like I didn't know day from night, what time it was. At that point, it really didn't matter. And I was just like, I'm just going to accept that, time is going to be a shit show for the next, day and a half or so until I get to Helsinki and somewhat get regulated again. And so rode up the train. Sleeping on the train was actually really nice. I slept pretty decently. The little motion of the train was very comforting and actually kind of like on a cruise ship where you kind of rock a little bit and it kind of puts you to sleep. Same kind of thing. I got the meatballs with the gravy and the mashed potatoes and the lingonberry jam to eat. And it was so comforting. It's exactly what you want, right? Like it's exactly what I wanted when I'm going up to Rovaniemi, and it was just cold outside and dark, and there's not much sunlight this time of year. In fact, when we were in Rovaniemi, the sun never actually came up. I never saw it, right? It was like it was riding right along the horizon, but I never actually saw it. And hell, it didn't get light outside until 11, maybe later. I can't remember exactly, but it was crazy, right? I mean, it never got truly light outside. Pretty neat. Kind of the opposite of when I was in Iceland, when it was, the midnight sun. Got up to Rovaniemi, train station small. The good thing about it is they have they have bus services that will take you to Santa Claus Village, right? And to some of the, city center and things like that. So it was very easy to hop on the bus. They have a little restaurant right there at the train station, and I was kind of hungry when we got there. So I actually went in, had some coffee, they have a little breakfast buffet, which was nice. And had the breakfast buffet, and then jumped on the bus and went to Santa Claus Village. And Santa Claus Village was exactly what you'd think it would be. I mean, you could meet Santa Claus. You could meet Mrs. Claus. There was shops and restaurants and little cafes and stuff all over the place. And there's several little resorts that are around it, little cabins that you could rent, or those glass igloos or whatever. And it was also the jumping off point for, several of the snow safaris, if you're going on the reindeer rides or, snowmobiling or whatever. And there were several companies in the city that did that. And actually the snowmobile thing would have been a ton of fun if I'd had more time to go up there. And a lot of people do that. And it looked badass because actually when we were driving to the snow village over the frozen ass river in Rovaniemi, there was a big line group of snowmobiles that were going out across the ice on the river, and it looked like a blast. Now, I will say, I have pretty good cold weather gear, obviously, from going to Nepal several times, and I was thankful for it because it was so cold in Rovaniemi. I mean, I think the coldest it ever got was right before I left to come back to Helsinki on the train. It was negative 23 Celsius, which is, oh God, I don't remember exactly. It's in the negative for Fahrenheit. So it's like negative 4 or 5, something like that, maybe. Anyway, that's a cold ass temperature. I'm just telling you, I've been in some cold like that before, but it just hits different. And Finnish Lapland, I'll be honest with you, like to the point, where my goatee and my mustache and stuff were freezing and like little ice, and it's cold. So I got the full experience. I mean, because it's, man. Anyway, walked around Santa Claus Village, checked all that out, stopped and had a coffee and some gingerbread cookies, which was really nice. Got a few souvenirs, and had a really cool time. In fact, it's one of those places where I'd like to go back and spend a couple of days and be able to do some of the other stuff out, the outdoorsy stuff up there in Rovamity. I think a lot of that would be fun. The snowmobile thing and going on a sleigh ride from reindeer and stuff like that. I think that would be nice. It would be a lot of fun. And I will give it to the Finns too, just as a general statement, especially up there. The snow does not faze them one bit when it comes to driving or getting out or anything. They are hardy. They weren't fazed one bit. And that was some impressive shit. I mean, they were ready to go, and they did not let it stop them from going about their day, being in the cold and the snow. So very impressed with the Finns so far on that front. So I did that whole thing, and then it was time to hop back on the train to come back to Helsinki. Like I said, it was a pretty quick turnaround. Basically up all night, up throughout the night on the train, get to Rovamity, spend the day, and then that evening, hop back on the train and come back to Helsinki. And so same thing as going up, right? The train ride was great. I actually didn't eat because I ate before I got on the train. Hung out for a while on the train, crashed out, slept. I think I watched some TV shows. Other than that, it was pretty uneventful, right? It's through the night. Got into Helsinki at like 6:30 in the morning. Luckily, I had kind of planned for that and had talked to the hotels and made my way where I could check in as soon as I got here. So made my way over from the train station to the hotel. I'm staying at the Scandic Helsinki Hub Hotel. And I will say, I really, really like it. Like the room is kind of small, but I got a smaller room because I don't need much space. And the hotel is really nice, really friendly. Breakfast was included. It was actually really reasonably priced. I think it was like $125 a night in a country that's pretty damned pricey. This is a really good deal. I mean, like $125 with breakfast included is pretty awesome. So anyway, the hotel's really nice. I got checked in. Couldn't pick up my luggage until after 10, so I had to kind of wait around for that. Yeah, yesterday was wild because it snowed its ass off the entire day. And so I got out and went exploring some. The hotel is kind of off one of the very big main streets in Helsinki. So it's like a block and a half, I think, off the main street. So it's really nice because you can just walk back down to that main area, and there's some of the more famous, like shopping streets and the Esplanade and the Stockman department store is right down there, and some other famous stores and stuff. And it's not far of a walk. I walked it yesterday to go see like the Helsinki Cathedral and Senate Square and all that stuff, which I went to see yesterday. It's very pretty. It's not quite as old Europe in Helsinki as some other places I've been, which is fine. It's different, right? It doesn't all have to be like super old and super gothic to be cool to see. In fact, there's a lot of modern buildings, modern art built into it as well. But just strolling around, it's a really cool city. It's small for being a major capital. I don't remember the population. I thought I saw something about 600,000. But compact maybe is a better word. I mean, it's not a super huge city as far as population goes, but that's a pretty decent population. But as far as a lot of the areas that you're going to check stuff out when you're here as a tourist, it's pretty compact, and that works out well. So I did quite a bit of walking yesterday, a lot of sightseeing. The time was catching up with me a little bit. I did get tired pretty early. I actually grabbed a nap, which was probably stupid of me, but I grabbed a nap and then I went to bed later on and actually fell asleep pretty easily, although I did wake up about 5 o'clock in the morning, so my body's a little screwed up still. So today, the plan really is I want to go see a couple of the famous churches. I'd like to go see the Odie, which is the public library. It's supposed to be really kind of a cool place. The Rock Church, probably will go see that today as well. Plus, I've got some souvenir shopping to do. My daughter has requested some Moomin stuff, and they have their flagship stores are here, so I got to definitely go check that out. And I think she wanted one of those "You're Here" tumblers from Starbucks, so I think I'll do that too because there's one pretty close. And just kind of stroll around, check it out. It should be nice. It's supposed to be sunny today. I mean, the sun's not out very long, but it's supposed to be at least sunny and not snow all day like it was yesterday. So I was pretty cold and damp by the time I got done from my walk yesterday. So hopefully today won't be that case. I can stand the cold. I just don't want to be wet. And yeah, so that's the plan for the rest of the day. I want to go down and try, it's like a salmon stew, right? If you've ever had I guess more like oyster stew, clam chowder, kind of a blend of that, but it's done with like salmon, or in Finland, it's pretty famous. You can start with bread. I love soup, so that sounds really good. And so I'm going to try that today. Probably go down to Market Square, which is down by the water. There's usually food stalls and stuff down there. I'm assuming they're going to be there, even though it's a cold ass day, just because, the Finns kind of just shrug it off and do whatever anyway. So I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, the trip so far has been pretty damned amazing. It's been pretty awesome. It's already been packed full of a lot of adventure and firsts and things like that, which is one of the great things of travel is it's not just marking it off a list or saying that you've done something. It's getting to experience it, right? I mean, it was pretty cool to experience stepping across the Arctic Circle. I mean, I have to say, and getting to, go that far on a train and just all those types of things. It's like I said, sometimes we refer to things as like, bucket lists or, marking it off a list, but it's more than just marking something off of a list. Travel is about the experience, and you really have to let yourself experience those things, and not just, like I said, not just, look at them and turn around and walk off and say, well, I get to check that off the list. It's not really that. It's about being in the place and being in the moment and really experiencing it. So just remember that as you travel. It's really cool to be able to say you've been places, and I love doing that. But, when you're there and you're getting to mark those places off, really experience them and really take them in and enjoy your travel, not just as a way to say that you've done something, but actually to do it. It's a big part of travel, and I think that's very important, and it gets lost sometimes in today's world with, everybody's an influencer or has a podcast. I mean, or whatever. You kind of say, oh, well, I want to go there, but you just want to go there because you want to say that you've been there. If you want to go somewhere, go and experience it and really kind of try to immerse yourself in it, because that's the important thing. It's what you gain from it and the experiences you have and the people you meet and all those things. So don't forget that. That's my little touchy-feely PSA for today. But yeah, so beyond that, the next couple of days are going to be really interesting. I am going to sail tomorrow on a cruise/ferry boat between Helsinki and Stockholm. I think we leave around 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And it's an overnight ferry. It's like 17 hours total from Helsinki into Stockholm. And then I'll be in Stockholm for 3 full days, I believe. And I'm looking forward to that. Go check out Stockholm and see all it has to offer and run around the city. And then I am going to fly from Stockholm to Zurich and then have about an hour and a half layover in Zurich and then down to Gatwick in London. And I've never flown into Gatwick before, so that'll be interesting. But I love London. I adore London. And so I'll get in that evening in London, and then I'm going to spend the entire next day in London. I'm staying at one of the Hub restaurants by Premier, or Hub Hotel by Premier Inn. And really it came down to a location choice for me. I've stayed in Premier Inn before, and they've always been great. They're kind of like a moderate budget hotel in England, and they're usually in pretty damn good locations. And, they're not the fanciest by any stretch of the imagination, but especially when you're traveling by yourself or you just need a room for a night, even if you have people with you, it's pretty damn good. So I'm going to stay there in the heart of Regent Street, Oxford Circus, Piccadilly Circus, Carnaby Street, all of that. And it's very close to Liberty of London, which you guys will probably remember. My wife is a big-time quilter. She makes these beautiful big quilts, and she's really, really good at it. And her kind of favorite number one fabric to use on her quilts is Liberty of London. And the easiest place for us to get it in bigger quantities is either at the Liberty store, fleeing to the flagship Liberty store in London, hence London, or in Japan, because a lot of the fabrics are made in Japan for Liberty. So those are the two places we can really get a lot of them. And last time we were in Japan, that's what we did. And in fact, pretty much every time we've been in Japan, I've either purchased them for her, or when she was with me this last trip, she was able to pick everything out herself. So she gave me some pictures and stuff for some fabric to look for in London. So I'm going to do that. I also have brunch/breakfast, I guess. Technically, it's just breakfast reservations at Dishome in Soho there at Regent Street. And I am extremely excited about going there. I've been trying to go there the last couple of trips. As you may remember, my last trip through London was the very first thing I talked about on this podcast, the very first episode, where I had horrid food poisoning. And so I had to cancel my reservation because I was scared of, reactivating it or whatever, because I felt like absolute dog shit. So anyway, finally, cross your fingers, I'm going to get to eat breakfast there, which I'm looking forward to. And I'll probably go to Hamley's. There's the Hamley's flagship store, which toy store, which is very close. There's the flagship, Lego store is very close there. I'm probably going to run down to Harrods too, just to get some souvenirs and some things for my kids. And, while you're kind of doing that, you're just taking in London and experiencing it as you go, which again, I adore London. I actually looked for some football tickets while I was there, but nothing really worked out. Most of the teams in the city, at least in the Premier League, were out of the city that day. I think was it West Ham was playing? Or I don't remember. But anyway, it didn't work out, but that's okay. I'll catch them next time in London. I definitely, it's not like this will be the last time I'll be in London. So anyway, that's kind of the plan here for the rest of the trip. So I'll talk more about it probably in London, or maybe I'm going to have some free time in Stockholm. So I may go jump on here and talk about the cruise over, the ferry ride and all those things. But anyway, like I said, it's been a pretty kick-ass trip so far. A lot of new stuff, a lot of experiences, a lot more to do. We're still pretty early in the trip, but it's been a lot of fun, and hopefully it'll continue to be a lot of fun, and nothing will go sideways on me, and we'll have a lot of fun. So anyway, I will check back with you guys here in probably a couple of days, but I may turn this stretch right here into a podcast and post it, because I've been talking for a decent amount of time here, I think, and maybe this will be a good little intro into this series, and hopefully get a couple more podcasts out of it for you guys to enjoy and check out. Anyway, if so, I'll go ahead and say my little spiel here that I always tend to do at the end. So, as you guys know, if you listen to podcasts, people are always saying, please, subscribe and review the podcast. I'm going to say the same thing, because the reason it's said so much is because it's true. The more reviews you have, especially the more good reviews, like 5-star reviews that you have, the more Spotify or Apple or whatever will push your podcast further and further up toward the top. All right. So when people search for this type of content, they actually have a chance to find our podcast. So if you enjoy the show, I would very much appreciate you going on Spotify or Apple or wherever you can rate and review podcasts, and give us a 5-star review. If you feel inclined, maybe say a couple of words in the comments if you can. I know some of them allow you to do that. Some of them you don't. If you have some comments or whatever, please feel free. I would really appreciate that. That really helps us grow. Also, follow us on social media. Probably the biggest one the most active I am is on Instagram. And that kind of spits out posts as well from Instagram to like Facebook and Threads and such, which I'm on both of those as well. And some TikTok, but probably Instagram's the main one right now. So if you want to do that, I have a link to our Instagram account on the page for the show. And also email address down there. So if you have any comments, questions, requests, really anything, feel free to grab that email, shoot me an email. I would love to hear from you. I'll try to answer your question if I can, or, pontificate about what I think about a given subject that you ask about. I'm more than happy to do that. So again, the podcast hasn't been around that long. I know it's not a huge podcast, but I have really, really enjoyed doing it, and I really enjoy everybody following along. And it seems like we get some new people pretty often, and we've gotten quite a few downloads, and we're getting close to 500. Hopefully that's kind of the next milestone. I think we're at 437, 440 now, probably somewhere around there. So we're getting close to that 500 mark, which would be a cool milestone for this little podcast, certainly. And so, if you know anybody that's really interested in travel or wants to learn more about travel, or you just want, to give them something that they can listen to and laugh about my jackassery and when things go good and when things go bad with me, please feel free. I would love to have them join the podcast and listen. So anyway, I just wanted to say that little spiel again. I know I say it quite often, but I really do appreciate everybody. And please, continue to help the show grow and add more listeners and keep going, because it's certainly a blast for me to do. and I hope you guys enjoyed as well. So anyway, that'll be it. I'll sign off now from here in Helsinki on a starting to get light outside but cold day here in January in Helsinki, and I will probably speak to you guys again in a couple of days, probably from Stockholm, and I'll tell you how the ferry ride goes and what my initial impressions of Stockholm are. So thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon. Have a great day, and I'll see you. Bye.
This has been Tray Tables and Time Zones. Worldwide travel is one of the funnest things you can do in life. And it's our passion to talk about the good, the bad, the funny, and the ugly. Nothing is off limits. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on Instagram at Trade Tables and Time Zones. And for questions or comments, send your email to traysandtimes@gmail.com. Take care, and see you next time on Trade Tables and Time Zones.